asks, how do I handle revision fees? Revision fees are not some gimmick that you use to bilk the client out of a few more dollars. Revision fees are a standard business practice used to keep projects on time and on budget. Revision fees make perfect sense from a business standpoint. You have allocated so many hours to work on this particular project. You have another project scheduled immediately afterwards. Or you might have several projects going simultaneously. When one of those projects exceeds its time allotment, it's going to infringe on the other projects that you've scheduled. So not only do you need to be compensated for the extra time that you're spending on the project, but you also need to be compensated for the amount of juggling that you're now going to have to do. When a project description changes and exceeds its original time allotment, you need to be compensated, and revision fees are often the easiest way to do that. Be very clear about your revision fees upfront in your contract. You want to make sure that you cover the basics of how many comps, how many thumbnails, how many types, and how many revisions are part of the initial workload that you're going to be performing. Anything not outlined in your contract ahead of time is going to be considered a revision. You can make that even more clear in your contract by stating so. You may not be charging by the hour, but you should be estimating the amount of time it's going to take you to complete a project. I have a clause in my contract I call the revision clause. I will tell the client when I've used up 85% of the allotted time. I will then inform when I've used up 100% of the allotted time. I will even go an additional 15% beyond what I originally contracted to complete the project without charging an additional fee. The moment that my project exceeds 115%, I will snap back to the 100% mark and start applying my revision fee. That revision fee could be per revision, or that revision fee can be based on an hourly rate that I've stipulated in my contract. Since I've applied my revision clause to my contracts, the amount of projects that have exceeded the time allotment has dropped down to nearly nothing. Clients are very effective in completing the project on time and doing the amount of revisions that you've allocated when they realize that they're going to be paying additional for revisions. The key thing here is to be very clear about your workload and the amount of revisions you're willing to do for the money involved up front, and to be very clear that any additional revisions, or if the project exceeds your initial time outlay, that you are going to be applying additional fees. I hope that helps.
Disclaimer. Mark Monlux's advice is self-indulgent pontification which may or may not cover the general principles of law in response to issues of concern to the illustration community. Nothing in these articles should be construed to be a substitute for advice of counsel regarding the specific facts and circumstances of an individual case. Laws and their interpretation differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Legal advice addressing a specific situation should be sought from an attorney duly licensed in the appropriate jurisdiction.